This is the solution video for SAM Project 2, and you'll start out by downloading several files. Actually, you're going to have 3 support files: a text file, an Excel file, and an Access database that will import things from later. Obviously the Word document for the instructions, and then this database, our original one, and don't forget to rename it so that you can upload it when you're done. The first instruction wants us to open the therapist table in design view, which I've already done. If you right click on therapist, you can go to design view. You can also change that setting up here if you wanted to go to data sheet view and then back to design view. Then we needed to make the changes associated with the table, the values in table 1. So for instance, on the therapist ID field, they want it to be a short text, and in the description right here, they want the words primary key. The field size, so you select up here and then you have a group of settings down below in the field properties. They want the field size to be 3, and then for the caption property they want therapist ID. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll stop the recording and do this so you don't have to watch me type everything that's in that table. So I've added the description, and then on therapist ID, I've added my caption, and if you look, I've done the same. I changed the field size, the caption for first name or last name, and now I did it again for first name, changed the field size. Same thing for specialty. On the hire date, I haven't done that yet. They wanted it to be a date time, but then there's a format that they want it to be a short date. So you click in the format field, there's a drop down arrow, and then you have choices of what that date should look like, how it should display. And so we're going to change that to a short date. And then again in the caption, they want the word hire date. And remember in SAM that you have to spell everything exactly like they have it, or else it will get marked wrong. Now I'm on instruction 2, where they want us to add a new field after the hire date, and the field name is minors. And the data type, they want that to be a yes, no. So if you hit this list, there's your choices of the type of data that will go into that column. So in this case, we're going to put yes, no. And under the format, they want that to be yes, no. Well, what are our choices? They have true, false, on, off, and yes, no. So it's already there. The default value of no, and so if you look, we have a property called default value, and it's already set to no. And we want the caption to say accepts minors. So again, watch your spelling, and minors with an S. So we've finished instruction 2. Instruction 3, we want to delete the college field from the table, save the therapist table. So we can select this row, and we'll right click on that, and we can hit delete the row, and so the college will go away. Yes. And now it wants us to save this table. So a couple ways we can do it. If we close it, it's going to ask, do you want to save it? And we can say yes. I'll hit cancel. The other way is there's a save button right here, and because this is our active object, it will want to save it, but it goes, whoa, you're going to lose some data because we deleted that college field. Do you want to continue anyway? And the answer is yes. So instruction 4 wants us to go to data sheet view. So under the view, I'm on the table tools design ribbon. So under view, we'll go from our design view to the data sheet view. And now for some of these therapists, we're going to do the checkbox that they will accept minors for Reese, McHarg, and Zachary. So we got to find those people. Here's Reese right here. So we'll check that they'll accept minors. McHarg is 542. It's probably easier just to select it so I can see across, and there's Zachary. And now instruction 5 wants us to resize this to fit everything. So I'll just get the double-headed arrow and double click, and that will auto fit the size of that column. And now they want us to close and save, or save and close is probably more accurate. By just hitting the close button, it's going to say, do you want to save? And you say yes. And now that's closed. On step 6, we're going to import the structure of a table that's already been created in another database. So if we go to external data, we're going to import from Access, and then it's going to ask us, well, where is this other database? So you have to browse to where you've downloaded it. So I'll go to Downloads. And in my Downloads folder, I have this database, support A13 T2P1 point, so I'll hit open. So we're going to import tables, queries, forms, reports, modules in the current database. We don't want to link to it. We want to actually import it. So we'll hit OK. And then right here, there is only one table. But under options, I can choose, do I want to bring in the table definition and the data, or just the definition only? So in this case, it's definition only. Now realize up here, there's several tabs: tables, queries, forms, reports. What are we importing? We just want to import a table, patient, and just the definition of it, not the data. We hit OK. It asks us not to save the steps because we're not going to do this again. It's a one-time deal. We hit close, and now you'll see the patient table pop into this database. That's been, the definition of it's been imported. If I were to open the table, there will be no data, but if I were to go to design view, you can see all the structure of this table. Instruction 7 wants us to open it in design view, which I've already done. Again, right click, you can go to design view, or you can go to open and change the view right here to design view. And then they want us to change everything as described in table 2. Again, I probably will not, I'll just do it. The one thing, they want to make sure that patient ID is a primary key field, and it's not. So in the design ribbon is a primary key button, which means this is going to have to be a unique value. So now we've assured that that's the primary key. We're going to put that in the description, type the words primary key, and then make sure we change the field size down here to 6. And then they want you to change the caption property to patient ID. And of course, we're going to be doing that for each one of these. We'll click on one, change the field size, check or look at the caption property, if any other descriptions, which there's not, and we'll just go through each one of those. Occasionally it'll ask us to change the format of something, particularly on the birth date. They want it to be a short date, so be aware of that. So I will stop the video and fill in these fields for based on table 2. All right, I've completed that step. Don't forget to put the description, female, male. Looks like we have a space between the F and then in parentheses female. Also, I think on, what was it, state, we had a default value of Ohio. So if you just type OH here, it will put in the quotes for you. Nothing else too tricky on that. Let's move on to instruction 8, which is we want to add records to the patients table, which is what we currently have open, and then close the table when finished. So in order to add records, we can't be in design view. We've got to move over to data sheet view. Do you want to save it? Yes. So we just saved the structure. And now we can put in our 2 records. Again, I won't record the typing, but I'll just literally type in all of the values across here and do it twice. All right, I finished typing the instructions, the information for instruction 8. I do remember last time a lot of students missed a lot of points on this one because they put a period after the street and it doesn't want one. Just typo errors, right? I remember somebody misspelling this person's name. So again, double check your spelling. Don't put a period after street. Put in the dashes, but don't put in any spaces. Things like that, or else it will mark it wrong. So I'm going to close this table and we'll hit, do you want to save it? Yes. And now we want to import data into the patients table, and it's coming from a text file. So again, we'll go to external data. We're going to go from a text file, and now you got to browse for that. So I'll run to downloads again. And here's my text file in my downloads folder. So I'll hit open. And now it asks us, we don't want to import it into the new table in the current database. We want to append a copy of the info. So we will click append a copy, but then it's asking, well, what table? And it's the patient table. So we'll hit OK, and then it's going to ask us some more questions. And then we want to know the fact that it's a delimited, meaning there's a specific character that separates all of our data. In this case, the character is a comma. And that's where it's going to ask right here, what is the delimiter? And it already guesses that it's a comma. And you go, yep, that's right. You can see the column breaks in the data. We'll hit resume or next. And it goes import to table patient right there. For right now, we won't click the analyze. We'll just hit finish, and then it's going to ask us if we want to save those steps. I think it says do not save the import steps. So we hit close, and it will import that data. So now when I right click and open the patient table, it has all of the patient data here. Moving on to instruction 10. I'm going to close the patient table. It'll ask us, oh, it didn't ask if we want to save, but now we want to open the billing table in design view. And it's another one of those steps where we have to set up all of the description, field size, and caption properties along with the format properties for each one of these fields. So again, I'll stop the video and type all that. These are getting a little tedious. We also want to make sure the billing ID is the primary key field, so I'll click primary key on that design, and now I'll go through and set up all the field sizes, the descriptions, and the captions. Okay, I've completed instruction 10. A few things to pay attention to. This time we did have to change these to date time. They were originally short text. Also recognize we're doing a currency with 0 decimal places and a number, but then it also asks, well, what size is the number going to be? And so you have some choices here for integer, long integer. And the reason you have all these choices, and in fact the reason you're setting up different field sizes, that's all about the size of your database in terms of storage. You want to make things, the fields, as large as they need to be, but no larger. If I'm only storing tiny little numbers, well then I don't want to use long integer because it requires more memory to store long integer than it does an integer. Or even if I were to just do a byte, that's 1 byte of storage versus what could be 2 or 4 bytes of storage. So you want to try to keep things as small as possible, but still large enough to hold whatever value you're going to try and store in there. Instruction 11 asks us to move this sessions field so it follows the end date field. So you can just click on it and then hold down your mouse and drag it. So now sessions follows the end date field. Save and close the table. So if I hit the X, it will say, do you want to save all these changes? You say yes, and it closed it. And now instruction 12 wants us to import the spreadsheet. So under external data, we'll go to Excel. And now we have to find it, which will also be under my downloads folder. And is it the billing? Yep, so mine's right on top. I'll hit open. Again, we're going to append a copy of the records to the table. So we click on the append, and the table we want is the billing table. So we'll hit OK. We want to choose the sheet 1 worksheet. I believe that's it. We'll hit next. First row contains column headings, is already selected and it's grayed out. Import to the billing table. We're not going to analyze. We will not save the import steps. We'll hit close. And now if we go to open that, we should see data in there where there wasn't before. I will close this table and move on to instruction 13, in which we're going to create a table from scratch. So close that, we'll go to create, and we're going to create a table. We want to go to design view. So right now it's in the datasheet view where we can just click to add, but we want to go to design view, and it asks for the table name, and they said we were going to call it location. Hit OK. And the first field is location ID, and make sure you spell everything correctly. The data type is not auto number, but short text. And then the description wants the primary key, and the caption is location ID. And again with a space this time down here, no space up here. And it already has the fact that it's a primary key. So then we'll go on to the rest of these. We want it to be short text, but you want the field size to be 35. I don't think I set the field size for the location ID, so I'll run back up and set its field size to 3. And now you just continue to fill this out. So city, short text is default, so that works out okay, but don't forget to change the field size for each one. There is no other descriptions or captions, so it's just a matter of filling out the rest of these. Once you've finished filling those out, make sure you have your field size all set. They want us to save and close that table, so I'll hit the X. Do you want to save it? Yes, and now we're on instruction 14, where we're going to go to the relationship window, add 3 tables, and set up a couple relationships. Now we'll get more in depth on this in later chapters, but for right now we'll just do it very simply. So you go to relationship windows, you want to show your tables, and it asks us to show just 3 of them. So we want the location, no, not the location, therapist, billing, and patient. So we'll click on the therapist. I'm holding down the control key, the patient and the billing table, and we'll hit add. So those are 3 tables. We'll hit close on that part. Then we want to adjust the size of these so that we can see all of the fields. I'll just drag down until that scroll bar goes away. And so there we go. We'll see all the fields. We can move them around to add more room. And now we want to create a one-to-many relationship between the therapist table and the billing table using the therapist ID field. So I'm going to move patient out of the way. So what you do is you grab the therapist ID field, and if you drag it over to the therapist ID field here, it'll open up this relationship. And so we want to enforce referential integrity and to cascade updates to related fields. And we'll talk more in detail about that. But what that means, if I were to change a therapist ID in this table, I would want that change to be reflected over here in the therapist ID of the billing table. And this is how databases work, is you have a unique number over here, and I use that number over here to represent who the therapist is when I'm billing the patients. So now I can hit create. Oh, hang on, no unique index found for the referenced field of the primary table. So I might not have made a primary key out of one of these. Yeah, notice it's not a primary key here. I'll hit OK. So given that error, I went back into the instructions and realized, like in the very, very first instruction, we'd opened the therapist table and filled out all the therapist information. Well, we forgot to set that guy to a primary key. So I'm going to close this. Notice he has a key, and this guy does not. And so I was way back on the very first instruction we were supposed to do this. So I will go to design view of the therapist table. So there it's opened. We still have a relationship window, but I need to make this a primary key, which means each of these values has to be unique. So now when I close that, do you want to save that change? Yes. When I come back to my relationship window, now we're back to good again. So again, drag that over from that table to this table. This opens up. We want to click on that and the update. Enforce referential integrity. I mean, don't let me put a therapist ID over here that doesn't exist over here. That's what referential integrity means. And again, the cascade update, if I were to change a value over here, which you probably shouldn't be doing, but if I did, I want it to update over here. So now we hit create and we don't get that error message again. Now we're going to do the same thing between patient and billing, right? So I'm creating a bill. It's for a particular patient who had a particular therapist. And so I'm going to grab the patient ID, drag it up to patient ID. We end up with the same thing, and it says we do want to enforce referential integrity, and we do want to cascade update related fields. So now we can create. And then they want us to make it look like figure 1, in which case patient is to the right, billing is in the middle, and therapist is to the left. And they have them all lined up. I don't know if it would mark you wrong for not lining them up, but just to be safe, I'll make it look as close as possible as figure 1. So now we can save and close that relationship window. So if I hit the save button, it just saved it. Or if I hit the X, it's going to ask, do you want to save changes? And you say yes. At this point, we are done. Save and close any objects you have open, which we don't have any, but they always ask at the end of each one of these to compact and repair your database. So if you go to File, here's Compact and Repair the Database. It did that. And so now make sure it's named appropriately, uploaded, and get it graded. I submitted my project, and now I can go to the Reports page to view my results. And I should also be able to download that workbook again. Reports and Files, download. Right here. I think you can go to the grade book and actually see your grade too. But I will open this up and I'll hit enable content. It keeps asking me if I want to update to 2016. And then right here is my grading report. So we'll see how I did, if I had any typos. So sure enough, I got 96 out of 100. And right here, it looks like I forgot to put in a caption. So it's either I forgot to put it in or I spelled it wrong. For instance, if I forgot the S on accepts, or if I forgot the S on minors, it would affect me. And realize your report may have multiple pages, and so if you scroll to the bottom, there's an arrow. Oh, we missed quite a few things here. The field size property should match the value. So obviously on something, I didn't quite set the field size just right. And it looks like I did it again, the field size and a caption property. So I suspect it's just me trying to record a video and go too fast. And actually, I got a 96 out of 100. If I'm happy with that score, I would do nothing. If you wanted to get 100 out of 100, well, then I would go through and try to find all my little typos and fix them and re-upload it again. But in this case, I suspect it's just inadvertently forgetting to set something or having a quick typo kind of problem. So it's really up to you if you want to fix, if yours ends up with the same results, do you want to fix it or can you live with 96 out of 100? That's up to you.